Hey everyone! Tonight we're reimagining a tale of desert magic through the eyes of a fennec fox, the smallest of all foxes with the biggest ears in the canine world. This is the story of Sol, a young sand fox who discovers that sometimes the greatest treasures are not buried beneath the sand, but carried on the wind itself. You might remember tales of magical objects and enchanted forests from childhood, but tonight's magic flows from the natural wonders of the desert realm. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to hear in the comments which fairy tale you would like to hear next. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's whispered tale. The last rays of sun paint the endless dunes in shades of rose and amber as you stir within your burrow. Your enormous ears, each nearly as long as your entire body, twitch at the fading sounds of day. The desert is transforming, as it does each evening, from a realm of scorching light into a kingdom of silver shadows and gentle breezes. You stretch your cream-colored paws, each pad perfectly designed for dancing across the shifting sands without sinking. Your tail, fluffy as a cloud and tipped with darkness like it was dipped in midnight ink, helps you balance as you emerge from the cool earth into the twilight air. The temperature has dropped 30 degrees since midday, and now the desert breathes again. Above you, the crescent moon hangs like a silver boat sailing through an ocean of stars. In the animal kingdom, few creatures are as perfectly crafted for their home as you are for this seemingly barren landscape. Your kidneys are so efficient, you rarely need to drink water, drawing moisture from the beetles and plants you eat. Your fur-soled feet let you float across the burning sand like a whisper. But tonight, something is different. As the first stars begin their ancient dance, you hear it. A sound so faint, it might be imagination. Yet your extraordinary ears have never deceived you. They can detect the heartbeat of a mouse beneath the sand, the flutter of a moth's wings from dozens of feet away. And now they catch something else entirely. Music, not the usual desert symphony you know so well, not the evening chorus of geckos or the distant howl of your fox cousins. This is something older, deeper, notes that seem to rise from the very sand itself, a melody that speaks of mysteries and moonlight, of times when the desert was young and magic flowed as freely as water in the ancient rivers that once carved these lands. You've heard the elders speak in hushed tones about such things. During the cooling season, when all the fox families gather at the great rocks to share stories and wisdom, there are always whispers, tales of dunes that remember the first rainfall, of sand that holds the dreams of every creature that ever crossed it, of melodies that can only be heard by those whose hearts are ready for wonder. Your mother, blessed be her memory, once told you that every fennec fox hears a special song at least once in their lifetime. A song meant only for them, calling them to discover something important about themselves and their place in the vast tapestry of desert life. You'd always thought it was just another bedtime story, like the one about the fox who caught moonbeams in her tail. But now, as you stand at the entrance of your burrow, with the cooling night air ruffling your pale fur, you're not so sure it was just a story. The melody grows slightly stronger, carried on a wind that smells of distant rain and blooming cacti. Your whiskers quiver with curiosity and something else. Not quite fear, but the thrilling awareness that tonight is unlike any other night you've known. In the distance, a barn owl calls, its voice threading through the mysterious melody like silk through sand. You know that owl. She roosts in the ancient acacia tree near the red rocks, wise beyond measure and older than anyone can remember. Perhaps she knows about this music. Perhaps she's heard it before. You take your first steps away from the familiar safety of your burrow. The sand is cool now between your toes, each grain a tiny crystal catching moonlight. Your ears swivel constantly, tracking the ethereal song as it ebbs and flows like an invisible tide. Sometimes it seems to come from the north, where the great dunes rise like frozen waves. Sometimes from the east, where legend says the sun sleeps in a palace of gold beneath the earth. As you move through the familiar landscape made strange by night and music, you notice things you've never seen before. The way certain rocks seem to glow faintly from within, as if they too are listening to the desert's song. The patterns in the sand that look less like windwork and more like ancient writing, telling stories in a language older than words. Your journey takes you past the cluster of brittlebush where you sometimes hunt for beetles, their silver leaves shimmering like coins in the moonlight. The mysterious melody seems to pulse stronger here, and you pause, ears rotating like radar dishes seeking the source. That's when you notice the tiny movement near a moon shadow cast by a boulder. A Jerboa sits there, ancient and still as the stones themselves. His fur has the dusty gray of countless seasons, and his enormous eyes hold depths like deep desert wells. You've seen him before, always at a distance, always watching with those knowing eyes. The young ones whisper that he's lived for 20 seasons or more, impossibly old for his kind. In the animal kingdom, Jerboas rarely survive past 5 or 6 years in the wild, but this one seems to exist outside the normal rules of time. Sol, he says, and his voice sounds like sand sliding down a dune. You freeze, wondering how he knows your name. You've never spoken, never been formally introduced in the way of desert creatures. I've been expecting you. His tail, nearly twice the length of his body, traces a perfect circle in the sand. Jerboas use their tails for balance during their extraordinary leaps, sometimes bounding 6 feet in a single jump. But this movement seems ceremonial, deliberate. Within the circle, the sand begins to shimmer and swirl, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. You hear it, don't you? The elder continues, his whiskers twitching with what might be amusement. The song of the singing dunes. Not all who have ears can truly hear. Not all who listen can understand. You creep closer, your natural caution wrestling with burning curiosity. The melody seems to emanate from the very circle he's drawn, rising and falling like the breath of the desert itself. "What is it?" you ask, your voice barely above a whisper. The old Jerboa's eyes crinkle at the corners. "Sit, young fox. Let me tell you a story that was old when my grandmother's grandmother first heard it, back when the desert still remembered being an ocean." You settle onto the cool sand, wrapping your fluffy tail around your paws. The position helps conserve body heat, a fennec adaptation that serves you well in the cold desert nights. The elder Jerboa regards you for a long moment, as if measuring something invisible. "Long ago," he begins, "when the world was younger and the boundaries between waking and dreaming were thin as morning mist, the desert was not as you see it now. Rivers of crystal water wound between hills of golden grass, and trees bore fruit sweeter than honey. But the heart of this paradise was the singing dunes, mountains of sand that had learned the language of creation itself." The patterns in his circle shift, showing glimpses of this ancient landscape. You see shadows of impossible trees, hints of water that gleams like liquid starlight. It's magic of the old kind, the kind that exists in the space between what is and what might be. The dunes sang constantly then, their voice a harmony that kept all things in balance. The rains came when needed. The plants grew in abundance, and every creature knew its place in the great web of life. But songs of such power draw attention, not all of it kind. A cloud passes over the moon, and in the deeper darkness, the Jerboa's eyes seem to glow with their own inner light. A spirit of greed heard the singing and coveted it. Not content to listen and be blessed, this spirit tried to capture the song, to own it like one might own a pretty stone or a favorite perch. But how do you cage the wind? How do you bottle the voice of the earth itself? You find yourself leaning forward, completely absorbed. The mysterious melody around you seems to respond to the story, growing more complex, more layered with meaning. The spirit's attempts to trap the song caused great harm. The rivers dried to whispers, the trees retreated to hidden places, and the land itself began to forget the old harmonies. In desperation, the singing dunes made a choice. They would hide their true song, letting out only fragments, only echoes. And they would wait. Wait for what? You breathe, unable to help yourself. The elder Jerboa's tail sweeps through the circle, and the patterns collapse back into ordinary sand. For one pure of heart to hear the call, for one who seeks not to possess, but to understand, for one who can learn the song not to keep it, but to share it. The dunes test all who hear their whispers. Many are called by curiosity or greed, or the simple desire for adventure. But only those who approach with clean hearts and open spirits can find the true singing dunes and learn their secret. He fixes you with those ancient eyes. The song you hear now is an invitation, young soul. But know this, the path to the singing dunes is not measured in distance alone. You will be tested, not with terrible trials or impossible tasks, but with choices. Small ones, perhaps, but the small choices are often the truest measure of a heart. In the distance, a kit fox yips, a sound that usually signals the discovery of prey or the warning of danger. But tonight, it sounds almost like encouragement. The elder Jerboa rises on his powerful hind legs, preparing for one of his incredible leaps. "Follow the constellation of the great fox," he says, gesturing to the stars with one delicate paw. "Let her silver trail guide you through the night. Trust your ears, yes, but trust your heart more. And remember, young one, in the desert, as in all places, kindness is its own form of magic." With that, he springs away in a series of bounds that cover impossible distances, each leap carrying him 15 times his body length. In moments, he's vanished into the maze of shadows and starlight, leaving you alone with your wonder and the ever-present song. You lift your gaze to the vast desert sky, searching for the familiar pattern your mother showed you on countless clear nights. There, stretched across the heavens like silver dust, runs the constellation of the great fox. Her stars form the outline of a fox in mid-leap, forever chasing the moon across the sky. Your mother's voice echoes in your memory, soft as fur against fur. When you're lost, little one, look for her brush tail pointing north, her nose always seeking tomorrow's dawn. The sand beneath your paws grows cooler as you leave the rocky outcroppings behind. Each step takes you deeper into the sea of dunes, where the landscape shifts and changes like a living thing. In the animal kingdom, fennec foxes are known for their incredible memory of terrain, able to navigate vast territories and always find their way back to their burrows. Your brain maps every subtle landmark, the twisted skeleton of an ancient ironwood tree, the dark smudge of a distant mesa, the particular way moonlight catches on a cluster of white quartz stones. The mysterious melody grows stronger, though it doesn't get louder exactly. Instead, it becomes clearer, like viewing something through morning mist that slowly lifts. You notice that the song seems to have layers, like the sediment lines in a canyon wall. There's a deep, thrumming bass note that might be the earth itself breathing. Above that, a middle range that sounds like wind through stone arches. And threading through it all, a high, sweet melody that makes your heart ache with inexplicable longing. As you trot steadily northward, following the great fox's celestial trail, you become aware of the desert's nighttime symphony joining the mysterious song. A poor will calls its own name repeatedly from somewhere in the darkness. The soft rustle of kangaroo rats gathering seeds adds a percussion like tiny drums. Even the sand seems to whisper as it shifts and settles, as if the whole desert is leaning in to listen. You pause at the crest of a particularly tall dune to rest and get your bearings. Your enormous ears swivel independently, one tracking the song while the other monitors for danger. It's an ability that has saved many a fennec from silent winged owls or stalking snakes. But tonight, the predators seem to have declared a truce. You sense them out there, the hunters and the hunted alike, all pausing in their eternal dance to listen to something greater. From your high vantage point, the desert spreads out like a frozen ocean. The dunes create patterns that from ground level seem random, but from up here reveal themselves as perfect spirals and crescents, nature's own alphabet written large across the land. Scientists who study such things say these patterns form from the complex interaction of wind and gravity. But looking at them now, bathed in starlight and humming with that otherworldly melody, you wonder if perhaps they're sheet music for the Earth's own song. A movement catches your eye, and you spot another fennec fox on a distant dune. For a moment, your heart leaps, thinking it might be one of your siblings from last year's litter. But as you watch, the fox seems to shimmer and fade like a mirage. You blink your large eyes, and it's gone. Or perhaps it was never there at all. The desert at night can play tricks, showing you things that exist in the corners of wishes rather than in the solid world. You continue your journey, sliding down the dune's far side in a controlled tumble that would look like play if anyone were watching. Your fur-padded feet make almost no sound as you land and continue padding north. The temperature has dropped another 10 degrees, and you fluff your coat a bit, trapping air between the layers for insulation. Your ears, with their extensive blood vessel network, help regulate your body temperature, releasing excess heat during the day and conserving it now in the cool night. The song takes on a new quality as you travel, becoming somehow more personal. Where before it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, now it feels as though it's singing specifically to you. You catch what might be your name woven into the melody, though in a language older than words. It knows you, this song, knows your hopes and fears, your small daily victories, and private disappointments. A memory surfaces, unexpected and vivid. You're very young, barely weaned, huddled with your siblings during your first sandstorm. The wind howled like all the demons of legend, and sand tried to find every gap in your family's burrow. Your mother wrapped herself around all 6 of you, her body a shield against the chaos. And she hummed a simple tune, wordless and repetitive, but it pushed back the fear and made a small circle of safety in the raging world. The song you're following now has that same quality, that same sense of safety within mystery. It occurs to you that perhaps all lullabies, all comfort songs are just echoes of this greater melody. Fragments that different mothers of different species have caught and saved and passed down, generation to generation, like heirlooms made of sound. The great fox constellation has wheeled a quarter turn across the sky, and you realize you've been traveling for hours. Your usually nocturnal energy shows no signs of flagging, though. If anything, you feel more awake, more alive than ever before. Each breath brings the taste of distant rain, though no clouds mar the crystal sky. Each paw step seems to land exactly where it should, as if the path were laid out for you before you were born. You come to a place where 3 ancient saguaro cacti stand like sentinels, their arms raised to the stars. These giants can live for 200 years or more, and these three have clearly seen centuries pass. In their moon shadows, you spot something that makes you stop short. Tracks in the sand. Not the random paths of hunting beetles or foraging rodents, but deliberate, purposeful tracks. Fox tracks. But not just any fox tracks. These are enormous, easily 3 times the size of your own delicate prints. The stride length suggests a creature far larger than any fox you've ever encountered. In the natural world, the largest foxes are red foxes, but even they would seem small compared to whatever left these marks. Yet the gait pattern is unmistakably vulpine, that distinctive straight-line trot of your kind. The massive tracks lead away from the 3 saguaros toward a depression in the landscape. As you follow them, the air changes, taking on the faintest hint of moisture that only your sensitive fennec nose can detect. The ability to smell water from miles away can mean the difference between life and death in the desert. The depression deepens into a valley with walls of colored stone, telling stories of ancient seas. The tracks continue straight, their maker clearly knowing the destination. The song takes on a liquid quality here, notes flowing like water over stones. Then you see it, an impossible oasis, with a pool no larger than a fallen saguaro, reflecting stars like captured night sky. Around it grow things that shouldn't exist here. Ferns from northern canyons, flowers from high mountains. But at the water's edge, a single desert rose bush struggles despite the abundance. Its leaves droop, blooms withered to brown paper. The rose belongs here, unlike everything else. Your nose catches a scent at the water's edge that makes your fur stand on end. Not from fear, but recognition. It smells like every fox that has ever lived, layered like geological strata. Welcome, little cousin. The voice comes from everywhere. I was wondering when you would arrive. The air shimmers near the struggling rose, and she appears. Her fur shifts colors like sunset clouds. She's coyote-sized but moves with fennec grace. Her eyes hold depths like windows between stars. This is the Oasis Guardian. The song led you true, she says, voice carrying multiple harmonies. But whether you reach the singing dunes depends on choices yet unmade. She gestures toward the rose. This native plant could thrive anywhere in your homeland, yet here in my oasis of plenty, it withers. Can you tell me why? You examine it carefully. The soil is damp, moonlight reaches it fully. Then you notice the crucial detail. While exotic plants root in pool-fed earth, the rose's roots hit stone just beneath the surface. It cannot reach the water table. The water is there, but it cannot reach deep enough, you say. And what would you do about it? You look at the pool, its surface perfect. In the desert, water is more precious than prey. Every instinct says drink deeply, but the rose droops more, one petal falling. You spot a broad fern leaf, curved like a bowl. Carefully nipping it free, you carry it to the pool and fill it. Your throat constricts with thirst at the scent, but you turn away without drinking. You transport it to the rose and pour water over its roots. 3 more trips you make, thirst growing stronger. On the 4th trip, something extraordinary happens. The water begins glowing with soft inner light, spreading through sand like luminous roots. The rose straightens, withered blooms replaced by flowers edged with light. "Well done," the guardian says warmly. "You could have drunk. Who would have known?" "I would have known," you reply. She approaches, fur containing tiny points of light like quartz stars. She touches her nose to yours, and you smell rain not yet fallen, flowers that will bloom next spring. She breathes on the rose. One bloom transforms, becoming translucent with a glowing center. "Take this," she says. You nip it carefully, and it changes into a smooth stone, glowing with gentle light. A moonstone, unlike any in the oldest stories. This will light your way when paths grow dark. More importantly, it reminds you that kindness creates its own light. The rose will thrive now, roots finding deep water. Because you chose compassion over comfort, the way to the singing dunes opens. You pick up the moonstone carefully. It's warm, tingling like captured starlight. The guardian turns toward the pool, form shimmering. "Follow the song, little fox. It will sound clearer now because you've proven your heart can hear its true meaning." But remember, tests aren't over. The desert asks much of those who would learn its secrets. "Who are you?" you ask, setting down the stone. She looks back, smiles sad and beautiful. "I was once like you, a small fox who heard a song. I found the singing dunes, learned their secrets, chose to guard sacred places. Perhaps one day you'll face such a choice. But that's a song for another night." She bounds into the pool, merging with water, dissolving into light ribbons that spiral into impossible depths. The oasis returns to stillness. You drink from the pool, feeling coolness spread through your body. It tastes of mountain snow, century rain, underground rivers remembering when desert was green. The massive tracks have vanished, but the rose remains transformed, glowing blooms adding light to your moonstone's radiance. You touch one petal gently in farewell. The song returns stronger, different now. Where before it was mysterious, now it feels conversational. It speaks of wind patterns, star paths, the angle for climbing steep dunes, where to place pause for silent movement. It's becoming not just song, but teaching. You leave the oasis, climbing valley walls with moonstone lighting the way. At the rim, looking back, the depression appears filled with ordinary shadows. Only the glowing stone in your mouth and taste of ancient water confirm it was real. The moonstone's gentle glow creates a small sphere of silver light around you as you traverse the cooling desert. Its radiance doesn't overwhelm your night vision but enhances it, making shadows softer and edges clearer. You've tucked it carefully against your cheek, holding it gently with your teeth, and its warmth pulses in rhythm with your heartbeat. The land begins to change as you travel deeper into territories unknown to your family's memories. The dunes here roll differently, their crests sharp as knife edges, carved by winds that follow patterns older than memory. Between these sand mountains, the valleys run deeper, their floors scattered with stones, polished smooth by patient wind. As you descend into one such valley, following the song that grows ever more complex, you notice the air behaving strangely. It moves in visible currents, like rivers of transparency, flowing at different heights and speeds. Your enormous ears detect something remarkable. Each current carries its own distinct tone, its own part of a greater harmony. You set the moonstone carefully on a flat rock, its light pooling like spilled milk. In the animal kingdom, fennec foxes can detect sounds up to 15 kilohertz, hearing frequencies that remain hidden to most creatures. This gift serves you well now as you sit perfectly still, ears swiveling to catch every nuance of this aerial symphony. The lowest current, flowing just above the valley floor, hums with deep bass notes that vibrate in your chest. Higher up, at the height of a jumping Jerboa, runs a stream of air singing in middle tones like a wooden flute. And far above, near the valley's rim, the highest current keens with crystalline notes that make your whiskers tingle. These wind currents aren't random. They weave around each other in complex patterns, sometimes merging to create new harmonies, sometimes splitting to carry separate songs to different corners. Where they touch the valley walls, the stones sing back. Red sandstone contributes warm, round notes. Black volcanic rocks add sharp accents. White quartz formations ring like tiny bells. You're so absorbed in this lesson that you almost miss the approach of another creature. A kit fox emerges from behind a cluster of rocks, but something is wrong. It moves too smoothly, form rippling rather than walking. Its eyes reflect your moonstone's light in impossible ways. You're learning to listen, the kit fox says, its voice the valley wind, given form. Good. The singing dunes won't reveal themselves to those who hear only with their ears. The creature circles you slowly, and you notice its paws don't quite touch the ground. Where they almost meet sand, tiny whirlwinds form, lifting grains in miniature spirals. This is another guardian, you realize. I am the Valley Keeper, it confirms. I teach the wind which songs to sing and ensure the old language doesn't fade into silence. Tell me, young seeker, what have you heard in my currents? You consider carefully. I hear time in the low winds, change in the middle, and possibility in the high streams. The Valley Keeper nods, form solidifying slightly. Say, a beginning, but you've heard only separate voices. True teaching comes when you understand how they speak together. Watch. It leaps impossibly high, form stretching as it rises. As it moves through each wind current, the tones change, modulating in response. The separate streams weave together, creating a melody that makes your previous understanding seem like scattered notes. This is purposeful, structured, a complete sentence that translates directly into meaning. The dunes sing of tomorrow's rain, the woven winds whisper. Clouds gather beyond sight, called by desert's need. Seeds wait in patience. Change comes with dawn. The Valley Keeper lands before you. Every wind current carries part of a greater conversation. The singing dunes learn to speak this language perfectly, to sing with such clarity that their voice shapes reality itself. They sang rain during droughts. They sang lost travelers home. They sang peace into warring hearts. Is that why the song was hidden, you ask? Because such power could be misused? Wisdom as well as good hearing, the Valley Keeper approves. Imagine if one could sing desires into being without thought for balance. The desert would become a battlefield of competing songs. The wind fox gestures upward. Try to understand the full conversation. Step into the currents. Let them teach you. You pick up your moonstone and move to where the lowest current flows. As it washes over you, your fur ripples, and suddenly you understand more. This isn't just wind. It's the breath of the earth itself, carrying messages from stone to stone, dune to dune. Fennel foxes have 40% more sensory neurons in their ears than most mammals, and every one of them fires with new understanding. You leap higher into the middle current. Here the messages are faster, more urgent. They speak of seasonal changes, of flowers preparing to bloom after rain, of migrations beginning 1,000 miles away. Your body tingles with the knowledge flowing through you. The highest current requires your best jump, using your powerful hind legs to spring nearly 4 feet straight up. This stream nearly tumbles you with its intensity. These are the songs of stars, of weather patterns forming over distant oceans, of the vast cycles that govern all life. When you land, dizzy with revelation, the Valley Keeper nods approvingly. You begin to understand. The singing dunes mastered all these voices and more. They became the desert's mouth, speaking truths too large for single creatures to comprehend. But I'm just one small fox, you say, suddenly overwhelmed by the magnitude of what you're seeking. Every voice in the chorus matters, the Valley Keeper replies gently. The singing dunes aren't calling you to become something you're not. They're calling you to become most fully what you are. A bridge between the small and the vast. A translator of wonders. It moves toward the valley's far end, form beginning to disperse. Follow the song through my valley. The winds will help carry you now that you understand their language. But beware the next passage. Not all who guard the way to the dunes are as gentle as wind. Wait, you call. Will I see you again? It turns, already more air than form. I am in every breeze that carries meaning, every wind that whispers secrets. You'll hear me again whenever you truly listen. With that, the Valley Keeper dissolves entirely, becoming one with the currents it guards. You're alone again, but not really. The winds sing around you with new clarity now, each gust carrying messages you can partially understand. The low wind speaks of water deep beneath rock, waiting. The middle current warns of a hawk circling 2 valleys over. The high stream celebrates stars being born in distant nebulae. You move through the valley with new awareness, your paws finding the paths where all 3 currents meet. and create pockets of stillness. In these quiet spaces, the full meaning of the wind's conversation becomes clear, like seeing a complete tapestry instead of individual threads. The moonstone in your mouth pulses brighter with each revelation, as if it too is learning the ancient language. As you near the valley's end, the winds begin to shift, their songs taking on an urgent quality. They're preparing you, you realize, for whatever comes next. The currents braid together into a single powerful stream that pushes at your back, and within it you hear a clear message: trust what you've learned. Remember kindness. Listen with more than ears. The valley walls gradually lower, and you emerge onto a flat expanse of packed earth and scattered rocks. The wind currents spread out here, dissipating into the open sky, but their songs linger in your ears like a blessing. You pause to look back at the Valley of Whispering Winds, seeing it now not just as a passage, but as a school, a place where the desert teaches those willing to learn. The song of the singing dunes calls stronger than ever, no longer a single melody, but a complex symphony that incorporates everything you've learned. It includes the patient rhythm of stones becoming sand, the joyful splash of rare rain, the whispered promises of seeds waiting to bloom. Most of all, it carries the voice of the desert itself, ancient and eternal, inviting you to become part of its endless story. With the wind's wisdom in your ears and the moonstone's light guiding your way, you set off across the flatland toward the next challenge, knowing that each step brings you closer to understanding not just the singing dunes, but your own place in the vast web of desert life. The Valley of Whispering Winds releases you gently, its wind currents giving one final caress before dispersing into the open desert. The moonstone in your mouth glows steadier now, as if the wind's teachings have strengthened its light. You pad forward into territory no fox from your family has ever described, following the song that grows richer with each passing moment. The land changes gradually. Sandy plains give way to a landscape of pure dunes, their surfaces carved into flowing patterns by winds that have blown unchanged since the world was young. The song here has weight to it, pressing against your fur like physical touch. You can feel it in your bones, in the spaces between your heartbeats. As you climb a particularly steep dune, using your claws to grip the sliding sand, the view from the crest stops you mid-step. Spread before you is a scene from the oldest stories. In the far distance, mountains of sand rise higher than any formation you've known. These must be the singing dunes themselves, their massive forms glowing pearl white under the moon. Even from here, their deep voices reach you, notes so low they seem to come from the earth's own heart. But between you and those giants stretches a field of smaller dunes that fill you with unease. They're moving, not the gradual drift of normal dunes, but a constant, restless shifting that makes your eyes struggle to focus. Their surfaces are too smooth, unmarked by the wind patterns that should decorate any dune. As you watch, entire hills of sand slide and reform, creating new landscapes every few heartbeats. A shadow crosses the moon. Your body flattens instinctively, but the shadow circles back, descending with the terrible silence that makes owls the nightmare of every small desert creature. The great horned owl lands on a wind-carved rock, her talons gripping stone with casual power. She's the largest owl you've ever seen, and her eyes hold depths that speak of countless moons, countless hunts. Another small fox comes seeking the singing dunes, she says, her voice carrying the softness of feathers and the hardness of talons. Tell me, little one, do you know what lies beneath those shifting sands? The bones of seekers who thought themselves clever, quick, or pure enough to cross. You stand slowly, fighting every instinct that tells you to run. The moonstone's warmth against your tongue gives you courage. The song calls me, you say simply. I've come too far to turn back now. The owl rotates her head in that unnerving way, a full circle that lets her examine you from every angle without moving her body. The song calls many things. It called the rabbits who thought their speed would save them. It called the snakes who believed they could slip between the grains. It even called other foxes, some larger and stronger than you. She spreads one wing, revealing flight feathers that shine white among the normal coloring. I am the threshold guardian. I've watched these shifting sands for longer than your kind has existed in this desert. Only those who understand their secret may pass. Then tell me, you say, surprising yourself with your boldness. What must I understand? Her hooting laugh echoes off distant rocks. Listen then, small brave one. The sands shift because they're alive with ancient restlessness. They respond to emotion like water responds to wind. Approach them with desperate need, and they'll swallow you in desperate hunger. Race across with fear, and they'll chase you down into darkness. But there is a way to cross for those wise enough to find it. You sit, wrapping your tail around your paws, and truly observe the shifting sands. Your trained ears catch something beneath their silence. A rhythm, faint as a sleeping heart. The sands aren't moving randomly. They're breathing, expanding, and contracting in a pattern as old as the desert itself. They're lonely, you breathe, understanding flooding through you. They shift because they're searching for something. The owl's eyes narrow with what might be approval. And what do the lonely need, little fox? You think of all you've learned tonight? The Jerboa spoke of pure hearts. The Oasis guardian tested compassion. The Valley Keeper taught patient listening. They need someone to move with them, not against them. Someone to join their dance instead of trying to escape it. Pretty words, the owl says, but words won't carry you across. The sands test patience more than understanding. You must match their rhythm perfectly, move when they move, rest when they rest. One moment of panic, one break in the pattern, and they'll know you for a fearful stranger trying to cross their territory. She gestures with her wing toward the shifting field. It will take the rest of the night to cross at their pace. Your legs will burn, your mind will scream to run, and the far side will seem to grow more distant with each step. Many who understand the secret still fail because they cannot maintain the patience required. You stand, taking a deep breath. Then I'd better begin. The owl settles her wings. One gift I'll give, because you didn't try to lie or boast about your abilities. When you reach the center, when your strength fails, and fear rises like bile, remember this. The sands don't shift from malice, but from sorrow. They've been dancing alone for so long, they've forgotten the feeling of stillness. If you can show them peace without fear, they might remember their own. Without waiting for your response, she launches into the air with powerful wing strokes, disappearing into the darkness above. I'll be watching, her voice drifts back. Try to provide me with a story of success. I grow tired of adding to my collection of cautionary tales. You approach the edge of the shifting sands, moonstone glowing softly, and feel for their rhythm with every sense. There, beneath the surface movement, you find it. The pulse of ancient loneliness, the breathing of sands that have been searching for companionship since the last age of the world. You take your first step in time with their exhale, beginning the slow dance that will carry you toward the singing dunes or toward joining the bones beneath the sand. The first steps into the shifting sands feel like entering a living creature. The ground moves beneath your paws with purpose, testing your resolve. You breathe deeply, matching your exhale to the sand's own sighing retreat. Step. Pause. Wait for the inhale. Hold perfectly still as grains rise around your legs. Then step again on the exhale. The rhythm is hypnotic, meditative. Your world narrows to this simple pattern. In the animal kingdom, fennec foxes can slow their heart rate significantly during rest, conserving energy in the harsh desert. You use this ability now, calming your pulse to match the ancient breathing beneath you. Time becomes fluid. The moon tracks across the sky, but you cannot spare attention to mark its passage. The shifting sands demand complete presence. Sometimes you must step sideways as a small dune forms where you were heading. Sometimes backward as the sand flows in unexpected directions. But always, you maintain the rhythm. Your legs begin to ache from the precise, controlled movements. Each step must be placed exactly right, weight distributed perfectly. The urge to run grows stronger as fatigue sets in. Just sprint across, a voice whispers in your mind. You're fast, agile. You could make it. But the bones beneath the sand tell a different story. Halfway across, or what feels like halfway in this endless field, your strength wavers. Your next step falls slightly out of rhythm, and immediately the sands respond. They swirl faster around you, rising to your belly. Panic flares bright and sharp. This is the moment the owl warned about. Instead of struggling, you do something that goes against every instinct. You lie down completely, pressing your body flat against the shifting surface. The sands surge around you, and for a heartbeat, you think this is the end. But you keep your breathing slow, your muscles relaxed. You offer the sands not fear, but trust. And they remember. The frantic shifting slows, then stills. For the first time in perhaps centuries, this patch of sand stops searching, stops moving. It holds you like a gentle hand, warm and safe. You feel the sorrow the owl spoke of, the deep loneliness of sands that have been dancing alone for so long, they forgot why they started. When you rise, the crossing changes. The sands still shift, but now they seem to part for you, creating moments of stability just where you need them. You're no longer crossing despite them, but dancing with them. Together, you weave a path through the field, two ancient rhythms finding harmony. As dawn touches the eastern sky with pale pink, you take your final step onto solid ground. Your legs tremble with exhaustion, but you've made it. Before you rise the true singing dunes, and their magnificence steals what little breath you have left. These are not hills, but mountains of sand, their surfaces covered in patterns that look like frozen music made visible. Spirals and waves and geometric forms that hurt to look at directly, as if your eyes aren't quite designed to process such perfect mathematical beauty. The song that emanates from them isn't heard so much as felt, vibrating through every grain of sand, every molecule of air. You begin to climb, and with each step, the nature of the song becomes clearer. The sand here is different, older, each grain polished to perfection by countless years of singing. Your paws sink into it like stepping into history itself. Near the crest of the first great dune, you find a natural hollow where the sand has formed a perfect acoustic bowl. You settle into its center, placing the moonstone before you. Its glow pulses in time with the dune's song, two magical resonances recognizing each other. You close your eyes and open yourself completely to the music that surrounds you. The song unfolds in layers, each one revealing new meaning. In the deepest tones, you hear the story of water. Not just rain, but the entire cycle. Ocean to cloud, cloud to rain, rain to hidden underground rivers, rivers to distant seas. The dunes sing of a vast, conversation between earth and sky that has been going on since the world began. They mark time not in days or seasons, but in the great turnings of climate, the advance and retreat of green growth across the land. The middle tones carry stories of movement. Every creature that has ever crossed this desert has left its melody in the sand. Migration routes layer upon each other like harmonies. The dunes remember the first foxes learning to hunt, the first flowers learning to bloom after rain, the first bonds formed between species that learn to help each other survive. You hear your own kind in the song, generations of fennecs, each adding their small voice to the vast chorus. But it's in the highest notes that the true revelation comes. These crystalline tones sing of connection, of the invisible threads that bind every living thing in the desert into one vast, interdependent web. The scorpion's venom that becomes medicine for certain birds. The cactus that provides shelter for dozens of species. The fox whose hunting keeps the balance that allows plants to thrive. You understand now why the song was hidden. This knowledge, this power to hear and influence the fundamental connections of life could be devastating if misused. Someone who could sing their own desires into the web without care for balance would tear the whole fabric apart. As the sun rises higher, painting the sand in shades of gold and amber, you realize the moonstone has been absorbing the song. Its glow now carries within it a fragment of the dune's eternal music. Not the whole symphony, which must remain here where it belongs, but enough to remind others of their part in the great composition. A figure appears at the crest of the dune above you. Another fennec fox, but one made entirely of golden sand that catches the morning light. Its eyes are the deep blue of desert sky, and when it speaks, its voice is the song itself given form. You have heard our truth, it says. Now you must choose. Stay and become a guardian like those who helped you reach us. Or return, carrying what you've learned back to those who have forgotten their place in the song. The choice is no choice at all. You think of your family, your territory, all the creatures living their lives without understanding the connections between them. They need this reminder, this fragment of the eternal song. I'll return, you say, but I'll never truly leave. Part of me will always be here, listening. The sand fox nods, a smile playing at its muzzle. As it should be. The song doesn't end when you leave. It simply continues in a new voice. The journey home begins as the sun climbs toward its zenith. You carry the moonstone carefully, its weight different now, heavier with purpose. Within its crystalline structure lives a fragment of the eternal song, a seed of harmony to plant in the world beyond these sacred dunes. The sand fox watches as you descend from the singing dunes. With each step away, the overwhelming symphony fades to a whisper, then to a memory held in your bones. But it doesn't disappear. Instead, it transforms into something portable, personal. A lullaby version of the vast truth, small enough for one small fox to carry. The shifting sands lie still as you approach them for the return crossing. They remember you, the one who danced with them, who showed them stillness without fear. This time, they part like water, creating a clear path. Their loneliness has eased, replaced by the memory of companionship. You whisper a soft thank you as you pass, and the sands whisper back in their own language of gentle movement. Where the great horned owl perched, you find a single white feather, one of hers. You pause, understanding the gift. In the animal kingdom, owls' feathers are prized for their silent flight, their ability to move through air without disturbance. This feather carries that same quality, a blessing for your journey. You tuck it carefully beneath the moonstone, where it rests against your fur. The Valley of Whispering Winds greets you like an old friend. The wind currents still dance their eternal dance, but now you hear their full conversation without effort. They carry news of your success, spreading it from current to current until the whole valley rings with quiet celebration. The high streams sing of the kit fox who learn to listen. The middle currents carry stories of your patient crossing. The low winds hum with approval. As you pass through, you notice something new. Young Jerboas and pocket mice have gathered at the valley's edges, drawn by something they don't quite understand. They watch you pass with wide eyes, sensing the change in you, the song you carry. One brave Jerboa child calls out, "What did you find, Fox?" You pause, setting down the moonstone to answer. "I found the music that connects us all. A song that reminds us why we're here, together, in this beautiful, difficult place." The young ones don't fully understand, but they feel the truth in your words. As you continue on, you hear them chattering excitedly, already weaving your journey into their games and stories. This is how it begins, you realize. Not with grand proclamations, but with small seeds of wonder planted in young hearts. At the oasis, you find the rose bush thriving, its blooms now permanently touched with that soft inner light. The pool reflects not just the sky, but something deeper, as if it remembers the guardian fox who dwells within. You drink deeply, and the water tastes of blessing and farewell. You know you'll never see this exact oasis again. It exists partially outside normal space, a way station for seekers. But the rose will remain, a sign to future travelers that kindness creates lasting beauty. The ancient Jerboa waits where you first met him, as if he hasn't moved at all. Perhaps he hasn't. Time moves strangely around beings of such age. His eyes crinkle with pleasure as he sees you approach, notes the moonstone's changed glow, the white feather, the new depth in your gaze. "So," he says simply, "you heard the true song." "I heard it," you confirm, "and now I carry a piece of it home." He nods slowly. The hardest part isn't reaching the singing dunes. It's returning to ordinary life while holding the extraordinary in your heart. The song you carry will want to be shared, but not everyone will be ready to hear it. Some will think you've gone mad with desert dreams. Others will fear what change the song might bring. How do I know who's ready, you ask? You'll know, he says, the same way the song knew you were ready. Their hearts will recognize what their minds might deny. Start small. Share peace before you share truth. Let the song work through your actions before your words. As you prepare to leave, he adds one more thing. The guardians you met, we were all like you once. Seekers who found the song and chose our different ways of serving it. You've chosen to return, to be a bridge. It's the hardest path, but perhaps the most needed. The familiar territories of your youth appear as the sun begins its descent. But everything looks different now. You see the connections everywhere. The way the creosote bushes space themselves to share water. The intricate highways of ant colonies that aerate the soil. The careful balance between predator and prey that keeps the desert healthy. Your family's burrow comes into view as twilight paints the sky purple. Your sister emerges first, ears perked with curiosity. So? You were gone all night. Mother was worried. Then she stops, tilting her head. You look different. You set down the moonstone, its gentle glow catching her attention. I am different, you say softly. I heard something amazing, and I brought part of it back to share. One by one, your family gathers. Your mother, still beautiful despite her graying muzzle. Your younger siblings, full of energy and questions. Your father, quiet but attentive. They form a circle around you, drawn by something they sense but can't name. You don't try to explain everything. Not yet. Instead, you hum. A simple melody drawn from the vast symphony of the singing dunes. It speaks of belonging, of purpose, of the perfect way each fox fits into the desert's grand design. The moonstone pulses gently with the rhythm, and the white owl feather trembles as if touched by unfelt wind. Your younger sister is the first to join in, her voice high and sweet. Then your mother, harmonizing with the wisdom of years. One by one, they add their voices, not because they understand, but because their hearts recognize something true and necessary in the song. As night deepens around your family's burrow, you realize this is just the beginning. Tomorrow you'll venture out, carrying the song to others. The old rabbit who lives alone by the salt flat. The family of quail who lost their way last season. The young coyote who howls with too much sorrow. Each heart ready to remember its place in the vast web of connection. The singing dunes continue their eternal music far in the distance, but here, in this small circle of foxes, their song lives on in a new form. Smaller, perhaps, simpler, but no less powerful for being shared in whispers rather than shouts. No less transformative for working through one small fox who said yes to an ancient call. The night deepens around you like a soft blanket of darkness, and the excited voices of your family gradually quiet to gentle murmurs, then to contented silence. One by one, they retreat to the burrow, each carrying their own small fragment of the song in their hearts, like seeds that will sprout in dreams. Your mother touches her nose to yours before disappearing underground, and in that touch, you feel her understanding, her pride, her acceptance of the mysterious gift you've brought home. You remain outside a while longer, feeling the desert settle into its nighttime rhythm around you. The moonstone rests beside you, its glow softened now to the faintest shimmer, like starlight caught in morning dew. The white owl feather stirs in a breeze so gentle it might be the earth's own sleeping breath. Far away, so faint it might be imagination, you can still hear the singing dunes maintaining their eternal harmony, and you know that part of you will always be connected to their song, no matter how far you travel. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, and you think of all the creatures settling into their own rest across the vast desert. The Jerboa, curled in his burrow, dreaming perhaps of young foxes, learning old truths. The roses at the impossible oasis, closing their petals for the night, holding their inner light close until dawn calls it forth again. Even the shifting sands have found peace, no longer searching, but simply being, content in the memory of companionship. Your breathing slows to match the desert's own rhythm, that patient inhale and exhale that has continued since the world was young. Your eyelids grow heavy as the adventures of the night settle into your bones like pleasant tiredness after a long journey. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new hearts to touch with the song's truth. But for now, there is only this moment of perfect peace, surrounded by the vast love of the desert that raised you, that tested you, that welcomed you home, transformed. You curl into your favorite sleeping position, tail wrapped around your nose, the moonstone and feather tucked safely beside you, where their magic can guard your dreams. Your last conscious thought is a whisper of gratitude to the great mystery that called you, that trusted you with its song. Then sleep takes you gently, and in your dreams you dance again with shifting sands while the singing. Junies play a lullaby meant just for one small brave fox who learned to hear the music in everything. And so our tale comes to rest. Sweet dreams.